South Park's brand new game is confirmed to be in 3D, but did you know before Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole, there was actually a cancelled 3D game inspired by Hit and Run, which many fans believe to be the game THQ are currently working on. But the question is it? Before we start the vid, consider subscribing if enjoying the content. So we all know about the 3D N64 games, but did you know about the South Park game that was meant to release in 2004, but was ultimately cancelled before it even started? Was this a game created by the South Park creators? I've seen a lot of people mention in the comments they want to see the South Park GTA clone resurrected, and that's what they think THQ are currently working on now. But did you know this game, just like the N64 games, had no involvement from Trey and Matt? Which even caught me by surprise, considering after how much they've despised the early games that they would allow another company to take control of the IP again. How many movie/TV licensed games have we had over the years which do not translate well to video game format? Other than Chicken Little, they got a Metacritic score of 100. Granted, the difference is with the newly announced THQ game, Parker and Stone are in creative control, but it's also a giant leap to take from going to a 2D game, which has the original look of your show, to 3D. Would a 3D South Park game work? One thing we know about Matt and Trey is that they're very hard-working people and don't like creating trash. One of the craziest things to me was that the South Park episode Make Love Not Warcraft, Trey Parker absolutely hated and begged them not to put it on the air.
I don't want the South Park legacy to be ruined, and this show is going to ruin it because it's so bad. And it was about World of Warcraft. And it is still, to this day, one of our most famous episodes that people will cite as one of the best of all time. And I literally wanted to kill myself over that episode.
Even though he got the public's perception of the episode entirely wrong and is regarded as one of the series' best episodes, it still shows how passionate he is about what he creates and feels a huge sense of dread when he has released something he's not proud of. The South Park creators like to take risks as well, and amazingly, all their big risk ventures have been hugely successful. South Park Bigger, Longer and Uncut was the highest rated R-comedy of all time. Book of Mormon won multiple Tony Awards. The South Park games are critically acclaimed and regarded as one of the best TV licensed games of all time. These guys know what they are doing, and I can't imagine their 3D venture will be any different. Trey was so dedicated to Fractured Butthole that while in production, he needed to have his gallbladder removed and begged the doctor to let him leave so he could record more voices for the Fractured Butthole, as he quotes, "I just want the game to be sweet." So why do the current South Park games work? Well, it's simple. Trey just said it. I just want the game to be sweet. That's dedication, and I believe he will make a sweet game again with this next installment, judging from their track record. It's all up for debate what the game is currently in development at South Park Studios, but my guess would be it's not the Simpsons Hit and Run clone, as this game, besides a small beta model, had disappeared off the face of the earth, and I can't imagine Trey and Matt thinking 20 years later, you know what, we should bring back that game we had no idea existed and had absolutely no involvement in. Was the story any good without Trey and Matt's involvement for the Axe game? Little is known about the story, but the first mission involved Cartman needing to find a straitjacket and getting mistaken for a patient at a psychiatric hospital, which sounds like a plot Matt and Trey would mock. But wait, I don't work here, you got the wrong guy. I mean, you could even replace Cartman with Rob Schneider. I'm not meaning to trash this game too much. It could have been fun gameplay wise to an extent, but would pale in comparison to the Stick of Truth. It had a script written by the creators, they were overseeing production, recording all the dialogue, and passionate to show off at gaming shows. So what was the environment like at the studio for the GTA clone? The company was called Buzz Monkey. It had no involvement from Matt and Trey, amateur designers, a rude disruptive person in creative control, and convoluted ideas being thrown together left, right and centre. Yeah, it doesn't sound a great working space if I'm being honest. Probably better than when Trump and Rosie O'Donnell are in the same room together at least.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
In the first mission, we had Cartman dressing up in his Special Olympic outfit from the episode Up the Down Steroid and triggering his V-chip to go off from the movie Bigger, Longer and Uncut. There's nothing new here, just hey, remember this thing, which is what happens when you rely on others to work in your IP. Sadly, it seems this game had no real direction, relying heavily on callbacks to fuel the narrative and gameplay in a tiny snippet that was shown, which one of the developers quotes is what led to its demise. Trey and Matt have had years of experience in story structure and comedy writing. The people working on this game have had no no experience in this field and want to try and pull off arguably one of the biggest comedy shows of all time into a game, which I believe is one of the biggest contributing factors on why it got cancelled, because they were out of their depth and couldn't make it funny or original without the creators' full input. That being said, it's still a tremendous task making a video game, and I'm not undermining the developer's skill and expertise in game designing. Apparently the producer of the game used to call the developers late at night and annoy them with ideas and different brainstorms, instead of letting the project come together organically. Whereas Stick of Truth had tons of pre-planning, and the first draft of the script was 800 pages long. Sure, it got cut down significantly, but it shows the attention and level to detail that South Park creators wanted for their game, compared to BuzzMonkey. What was the company's inspiration behind the game? It was meant to be in similar tone to Hit and Run, but the problem with this is you are just duplicating an idea, and aren't the same team that coined Hit and Run. Trey even said this is the wrong approach when making a video game.
I'm gonna make a game that I would want to play. That's at least where you gotta start.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because as soon as you're, making some, well, this is what people like, I guess I'll make that, then it's just like, you might as well not even do it.
And I agree, we've seen countless games that try and do a copy and paste, and it rarely works. The first game that inspired the copycats is always the dominant one. Games stole heavily from Hit and Run too. If you watch the footage, it's clear as day. The collectibles, the vehicles, and even the sound bites. Now this was a very early build, so maybe these would have been switched to fit a South Park aesthetic more, so I can't criticize them too much for that. Now that's not to say I don't think a South Park inspired GTA game could work. So how would this game have escaped its inevitable cancellation? If the creators took charge, let Trey explain in his own words the whole process for Stick of Truth.
We've been working on it for 4 years. Are in the writer's room all the time, coming up with everything ourselves, making sure that the game has the quality that the show does and everything. And then we finally see it. We're so used to sculpting things. Sure. And the show, we're like, let's try this. Okay, no, not like that, like this. No, not like that, like this. And when you do that with video games, it drives people crazy.
What's quite funny is Trey Park even says if you keep saying, let's try this or this, that it drives people crazy. And that person was in charge of the cancelled South Park game. If this time around it had Trey Parker and Matt Stone write the script, overseeing production, etc., then Grand Theft Auto South Park may be possible. Parker and Stone have expressed how much they love the GTA series.
More time playing the last Grand Theft Auto last year, just because I just think, if you want to look at example of like what is a great fucking game.
Yeah, the audacity and bigness of that game.
Matt saying the audacity and bigness of the game maybe makes them think that one day they would want to tackle this for a South Park game, as there are endless possibilities to do in that environment. I do think right now that is wishful thinking, mainly due to the previous titles and the games they took inspiration from, such as Mother and Zelda, which Trey is an avid fan of also. And I do expect these games to be a trilogy. My guess would be this new game to follow a similar path to Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole. Again, this is just speculation, but I'm just looking at their gaming history and the previous games they took inspiration from, as that's all we really have to go by. Wasn't the game THQ is currently working on confirmed to be 3D? Now I know in the Viacom deal, one of the things listed on how they wanted to invest the money was a 3D South Park game, but I don't know if it's actually going to be fully 3D. Let me explain. People have said they think the game will be entirely different as it's being made by THQ, not Obsidian or Ubisoft. But the first game was actually meant to be developed by THQ before they went bankrupt. The creators have even stated we would only make a game if it looked like South Park. Now I know this was a while back in an interview for Stick of Truth and they've made 2 games in this style, but to do a complete 180 on that statement would be a bit bizarre. I believe the game will be 3D, but not in the way most people are expecting. Back in 2013, South Park changed its TV intro to a Paper Mario-esque 3D style. If you actually go by frame, the detail is actually quite incredible, and in my opinion, this is the only way I can see the creators making the transition to 3D. They love their crappy cutout animation, as that's part of South Park's charm. They have always been adamant that they want the game to look like you're in a South Park episode. More adamant than Seaman when you get his name wrong.
It's not Seaman, it's Seaman!
Whatever. We have even more evidence to back up that the game is 3D due to a job listing for a lead level designer posted early last year, which is why I still talk about themes and location possibilities, because I believe the next game will still be very similar to Stick of Truth from Fractured Butthole, just that the game will have more to explore and interact now it has a 3D look. I could be wrong entirely, and the new game may just have 3D combat and the world you explore is all still 2D. Maybe it is a completely new concept and not related to the previous games at all, but honestly that would blow my mind, as Matt and Trey would have to start from scratch, and Stick of Truth took 4 to 5 years to develop, and I don't know if they would want to go through that headache again. But just imagine for a second how great it would be to explore the South Park universe in the 3D cutout aesthetic. It could be a fantastic adventure game, as now the game isn't limited to 2D capabilities and we would finally be able to see the town in 3D. And South Park on N64 does not count. I actually think it could play very much like Yoshi's Crafted World. I'm hoping THQ have the technology and know-how on how to pull this off, but if this is the game South Park Studios are planning, we are in for a treat. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Consider subscribing if enjoying the content. Thanks for watching.